Hello and welcome back to Theatre Beard, the YouTube channel for students of drama, theatre and the performing arts. You're not going to see me for much of this video because I've got some diagrams to show you all about the anatomy of a proscenium arch theatre and also stage directions. But I thought I would come on just to remind you to use the timestamps in the description box to jump to the most relevant section of the video, or you can just sit and watch the whole thing through. As ever, don't forget to like this video and to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on any future videos. So, let's get started. Let's imagine that we've been given a building and we've decided we're going to turn it into a proscenium arch theatre. At the moment, as you can see, there is nothing but an empty room with a bare brick wall at the back. So the first thing that we decide to do is to put a stage in that space. Ta-da! That was easy, wasn't it? Now that we have our stage area, in order for it to be a proscenium arch theatre, our audience need to be seated on one side. And for the purposes of this video, we've already got a full house. As you can tell, it would be entirely possible to put on some kind of performance in this space already. Obviously, we haven't got any kind of technical equipment, we've got no lights or sound, we've got no sets or props or anything like that. But we've an empty space, we've an audience, and we would just need to add some actors, and that is all we would require to make a performance. But we're here to make a proscenium arch theatre, so let's put the proscenium arch in now. There we go. The proscenium arch is sometimes referred to as the pros arch for short, and as you can see, it's a solid wall with an opening that frames the stage. And this framing of the stage really focuses the audience's attention on where to look. Even now, our eyes are already drawn to the stage area. While we're here, we're going to take a moment to learn about stage directions, which is why I've divided the stage up into this grid pattern. This red row here is the upstage area, and it gets its name because of raked stages. A raked stage means that it's a stage that's sloped at an angle. So if an actor moves upstage, they're actually moving up a small hill. That's why it's called upstage. If the stage is flat, it's still referred to as upstage, and upstage areas are always the furthest away from the audience when performances are staged in this arrangement. As we move towards this audience from the upstage area, this blue row right across the middle is known as the centre stage area. And this yellow row nearest the audience is the downstage area. But as you can see, there are 9 spaces on the stage here, and each one of those spaces has got its own name, and I'm going to tell you about those right now. The square smack bang in the middle of them all is known as centre stage. Nice and easy to remember because it's right there in the centre. It does become a little bit more complicated from here on in, but it's nothing you can't deal with. If we put an actor in this space, in this instance it's Idris Elba, it might help us to understand the stage directions a little more, because stage directions are always taken from the performer's point of view when they are looking at the audience. So, the audience are looking at Idris is looking at our audience, and therefore centre stage left is here on Idris's left. For the audience, it's on their right, but they would still have to call it stage left. It doesn't change its name. Which means that centre stage right is here. Again, it's on the audience's left, but if they were talking about it, they would still have to call it stage right, because it's on Idris's right. We're going to say goodbye to Idris now. Bye, thanks for your help. The reason we have these fixed stage directions is because it speeds things up and makes things easier. If, as a director, if I was sitting in the auditorium and just asked an actor to move left, they'd have to check, do you mean my left or your left? Like, which left? And that slows everything down. Whereas by saying, can you move stage left or can you move stage right, we both know where I'm referring to. Which brings us on to the upstage area, and they follow the same pattern. Here we have upstage centre, followed by upstage left, and upstage right. And the downstage section follows that same pattern too. So here we have downstage centre, downstage left, and downstage right. It's worth remembering here that the stage directions are taken from the actor's point of view when they are looking out towards the audience. So if our actor was to turn around and face that back wall, stage left is still called stage left, even though it's now on the actor's right, because they're no longer facing the audience. Now that we've got our stage directions covered, we're going to look at some more parts of a Proscenium Arch Theatre. It's possible for the stage area to extend out into the audience, and this area is called the apron. It's referred to as the apron because it will still only have audience on one side. If you've seen the video that I did about different types of staging, you'll remember that a thrust stage also comes out into the audience, but a thrust stage has audience on 3 sides. If you haven't checked that video out, then please do so, but here we've got audience on one side of the apron. Next up, behind that solid wall of the proscenium arch and represented by the red dotted line are the wings. We have a stage left wing and a stage right wing, and these are the spaces at the side of the stage that are hidden from the audience, and it's where performers can make their entrances from and exit to. Quick costume changes can also take place here if an actor hasn't got time to get back to their dressing room. The controls for the flying system and the Revolve are usually located in the wings as well, and we're going to come back to the Revolve a little bit later on, but because I've mentioned the flying system, I'm going to talk about the fly tower. There's a bit more to the Proscenium Arch Theatre than meets the eye. Directly above the stage is a large space that houses the flying system. It's a series of metal bars that have cloths or scenery attached to them, and flying them in or out allows productions to change scenes relatively quickly and easily. The fly tower also houses the LX or lighting bars that are suspended above the stage. The LX bars are usually in quite low in order for them to be able to light the stage, and so to hide all of this equipment in the wings and in the tower, a set of strategically placed curtains are used. These vertically hanging curtains that I've just put in are known as legs, and they help to hide everything in the wings, but sometimes the auditorium might be quite wide, and so an extra set of curtains are sometimes added. These curtains are known as tabs and are marked here by the dotted pink line. However, because tabs aren't always present, I'm going to take them out as our stage area is about to get a little more crowded. A horizontal cloth is hung across the top of the stage in order to mask everything in the fly tower from the audience's view, because we don't want them to see the LX bars with the lights on and the fly bars with any scenery attached. This piece of cloth is known as a border. I should mention that legs and borders are usually made of black fabric, but so that you can see them better in this diagram, I've just outlined them in green. Also, sometimes the legs and borders might be made out of wood and have scenery or patterns painted on them, and in this case they're then known as portals. So let's add those in now instead of the cloth ones. There we go. You might have noticed that we can still see the brick wall at the back of the stage, so let's fix that by adding in a backcloth that's known as a blinder. Again, blinders are more often than not black, but I've just coloured it blue to make it easier to see in this diagram. Blinders are used to block the audience's view from anything upstage of them, in this case, the wall. But it would be possible to attach a blinder to one of the fly bars and bring it in centre stage. That would then mask the entire upstage area so that any set or props could be placed ready for the next scene. Often, the blinder used to cover the back wall might be a star cloth, which is a black cloth with either LED or fibre optic lights in it to make it look like stars in the night sky. Another way to hide the back wall is by using a cyclorama, which is sometimes called a cyc for short. Cycs are white, flat or concave cloths which can be lit or projected onto to suggest scenery. Often, performances in a proscenium arch theatre make use of backdrops, which are large cloths with scenery painted on them, and these are flown in and out from the fly tower. The action of the performance takes place in front of the backdrop, and they're used to give an indication of a different place. Plus, it also masks anything going on upstage of it, again meaning that set can be changed so that when the backdrop flies out, we're in a totally different scene. A variation of the backdrop is a cut cloth. A cut cloth is very much the same as a backdrop. However, as you can see, rather than covering up the whole stage, the cloth has been cut to a desired shape, in this case an arch. A cut cloth is sometimes placed downstage of a backdrop in order to give a layered effect. Sometimes they may even be used with a gauze. A gauze is a bit like a mesh, but when it is lit from the front it's completely opaque, meaning you can't see through it. But when it is backlit, it becomes transparent, meaning the audience can now see through the gauze to what is behind. And this can be used to make characters suddenly appear out of nowhere if they are suddenly lit behind the gauze. Next up, we have the Revolve. A revolve is a circular turntable that turns in the centre of the stage. This allows for quick scene changes by spinning the set around. Revolves are only found, as far as I'm aware, on flat stages. And finally, we have the house tabs. In some theatres, the house tabs are also known as the grand curtain, and they hang immediately behind the proscenium arch. They're often used at the start and at the end of performances, and sometimes they're used during an interval if there is one. They can be hung as a solid curtain and sometimes are flown in from the fly tower, but others part in the centre and travel horizontally, disappearing into the wings at either side. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that, particularly Idris Elba's little cameo. And if there was anything you wanted clarifying or anything you wanted me to look at for future videos, then please pop a comment below and I will see what I can do. In the meantime, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks again.